You and I had a conversation here a couple of years ago when Relativity had just launched its new active learning. You've had 2 years to use it and apply it for the benefit of clients. What's the experience been?
I think the experience has been, number one, that it works, right? When we first got it, we did some experiments and compared it to old cases where we had used a TAR 1.0 workflow. And those couple of tests that we did, we always reviewed less documents to find our responsive set using Relativity's active learning.
That's a really good luxury, isn't it? To be able to test it against previous examples.
Absolutely. And then also in cases where we've had that span, several months or a year, we've really been able to dive into the results. And we've been able to see that, once we've gotten the model up and it's really doing well, sometimes we'll change our workflow a little bit. And instead of working through the prioritized review queue, it makes sense to just work through batches and include families in there. And what we're seeing, we'll look at it every time, is that there's, and this is case specific, but say with ranks with 90 and above, 80 and above, 70 above, the model was working so well that there was really about 90% of the times, humans were agreeing with the machine's prediction. So it made sense to just make static batches, batch by email threads within those ranks, and we had great results and great speeds.
What are the key things that you've learned doing this?
I think the key things that I've learned is that the active learning is just one piece, it's just one tool in your overall workflow, right? You need to build around it. So I always like to encourage clients to code a sample set up front, right? Unless you have endless amounts of time and a blank checkbook, which no one does.
Rare, I
right,
think.
yeah.
Yep.
But we need to get an idea of how many responsive documents we're looking for so we can create budgets and we can get a review team to finish on time. You also need to account for other documents that don't work well in the active learning workflow. So do you have a case that's really heavy with spreadsheets that contain mostly numbers? Are videos, are images, are those important in your case? You need to look at those separately. You also need to remember to do QC. So don't abandon all the things that you do in a normal first pass review, just a normal linear review. Still do your subjective QC. And of course, though, you have the really powerful tool of documents with high ranks that humans have coded non-responsive. Look at those. That's been a really great way to clean up our set. And then of course, validation is key. And outside of just the illusion test, which Relativity offers, to see what responsive documents you may have left on the table. Were your review efforts successful? Were they reasonable enough? Reasonably accurate? Do any other types of QC, especially that counsel wants to do so that they're confident in the results.
It's not just remember the old discovery techniques, it's also remember being lawyers.
Yes.
And thinking of the things that one would think of in any context, electronic or not.
Exactly. It's always reminding counsel that this isn't changing what you've done for all these years. You still use what you would normally do to quality, to make sure you've got quality assurance here. Let us help you with the technology to get you there a little bit faster, a little more efficiently.
I would guess that clients are now more knowledgeable about the availability of tools like this and more or less expecting that that's what you'll use. Is that so?
Absolutely. It's been fun to see how it's changed the last 6 years since I've been using TAR, and clients they now come to us and they ask us, and it's, well, of course we'd use it. Why wouldn't we? There's not questions about, is this going to be defensible? Everyone's comfortable with it now that it is defensible, yet let's use it.
If you're a user, so not necessarily the paying bit of the client, but the person who's going to be sitting down in front of the screen using it, what are the first tips that you give to them?
I always remind them that you're coding on the four corners of the document. So you need to take out considerations of who's the sender, who's the recipient, was it in an important date range, was it from a certain network file. You just have to look at the text of the document, and that's what you make your coding decisions on. I still have seen from time to time with users that they will take take the metadata into consideration when making their decisions. And that's where we kind of have to pause and say, let's do some better calling at the outset. And if those are important determining factors in responsiveness, let's call out and make sure you're just looking at certain custodians, certain senders and recipients or date ranges.
Which is one of the reasons why we call this continuous active learning, because it's a process that goes on, an iterative process that goes on throughout the review.
Correct, it does.
Have you had any particular successes, any particular stories arising from this that are worth passing on?
Well, we have, so I think the first really great success is that it's worked in every project. Every project we've used it in, we have reviewed, far less documents than we would have doing a linear review. And unlike TAR 1.0, which I had a lot of really great successes in, but every now and then there was a flop, right? Usually because it takes a lot of work and time to go through the control set and training the system. There's a lot of work on council's end to get us there. We don't have that anymore with active learning. So it's been a great success. And normally I am seeing that we're reducing the number of documents to review between 20 to 60% consistently.